This is probably one of the most important concepts to understand when it comes to improving your life, and that is what I like to call the thermostat theory. And if you can master it, it will change your life. Hello friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, tap into their divine feminine, and become their best self, live their dream life. So if that's something you want to do, you should subscribe and stick around. So let me know if you've ever experienced this before. Things are going good. You've got a taste of something great. Maybe, for example, you get that new job that you were really excited about, or maybe you make some amazing new friends or find an amazing new boyfriend who treats you so well, or maybe you make a lot of money. Could be anything where you feel like things are like, yeah, like things are going good. My life is improving. And then all of a sudden, bam, something happens that knocks that happiness down a peg. And that good feeling is gone. Maybe you get in a fight with your partner. Maybe you get an intense wave of anxiety or worry that you can't shake. Or maybe you even get the flu and get totally knocked down for a week. Do you ever feel like your life is just this constant perpetual motion of forward and backward, forward and backward? You want things to just be good in life, but once it finally feels like that, it's gone. It doesn't last. It's exhausting and it's annoying, and it's why your life always feels the same. And no matter what happens, you always feel like you're stuck at the same temperature, so to say, in your life. When you try to increase the temperature, bring in more good feelings, more happiness, more abundance, more joy, more success, you get pushed down somehow, some way to where you were before. You just can't seem to crank the dial or crank the thermostat on your life. It seems like there's these invisible limits or glass ceilings on your life, whether it comes to just your overall happiness and joy, or more specifically, your love life, how much money you make, your health, anything. There's these limits or temperatures that you can't seem to cross. That's what brings us to the thermostat theory, the process of learning how to increase the temperature and turn up the thermostat of your life, of every area of your life, so that things can keep getting better and better. And I just made this name up. I've always called it that in my head. It just seems to make sense to me. It's catchy, but you can call it whatever you want. Each of us has an inner thermostat setting that determines how much love, success, abundance, joy, happiness that we allow into our life, that we allow ourselves to enjoy. And when we exceed our inner thermostat setting, we will often do something unconsciously or attract something into our life unconsciously to bring that temperature back down to that old familiar zone. And that inner thermostat setting massively affects the entire trajectory of our life. It's a limit for us for how good things can get, and we all have our own unique limits. But we can shift our internal thermostat setting, and the process of learning how to increase the temperature of your life will change everything. It likely won't be this quick overnight process. I'm just gonna say this up front, but it is possible and it does work. You have the power to shift these limits and allow more goodness into your life. And it's actually not that hard. It just requires consistency. I've done it, I continue to do it, it has completely shifted my life, and you can do it too. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to this problem and talk about how this shows up and why this happens. Just understanding the why behind it is half the battle in shifting it. So think about it this way. We all have our own energetic range with what we are comfortable and familiar with. And you can think about this energetic range as like a temperature range that you sit at. And we can have a bunch of different ones. So we can have our own energetic range for money, we can have our own energetic range for love, for health, for career, for home life, for literally anything. For example, we all have a certain number that we're comfortable with sitting in our bank account in savings. So let's say, for example, just for example's sake, that number is $1,000. That's your internal temperature setting. If we're at $500, then we're gonna feel the need to increase that, and we're gonna do whatever we can to increase that because we are not comfortable under $1,000. But if it's at $2,000, we can find ourselves maybe overspending or impulse buying something that we don't need and draining that account back to $1,000 because that $1,000 is the setting that we're comfortable and familiar with. And so this is important. The way that our subconscious mind works is that it naturally gravitates toward what we are familiar with that internal temperature setting, because that's all it knows. The subconscious mind loves familiarity. It thrives off of familiarity. It knows exactly what to expect. Even if what's familiar is not that great, that familiarity makes us comfortable. And it's a little bit sad, but some of us can actually find comfort in discomfort because that's all we've ever known. That's our internal temperature setting. And so when things are going good, we can essentially self-sabotage and bring ourselves down a peg, back to that old and comfortable and familiar temperature zone. And we can do this in so many different ways you don't even realize it's self-sabotage. If we're in a phase of life where work is going good, maybe you're making more money than you ever have, we can start to procrastinate. We can start to get overwhelmed and worry constantly that we're not going to be able to keep it up. So much so that we can't even enjoy the abundance right now. Or we can pick a huge fight with our boyfriend. When things start to get too good, it goes past our internal temperature setting, it's too high, we subconsciously do anything we can to bring it back down. Or maybe we even subconsciously attract things into our life, like annoying car problems or a cold virus or something like that. Things that seem like annoying coincidences, but might not just be coincidences. Now, of course, I do believe that coincidences exist, yes, but if you keep experiencing bad luck and bad coincidences all the time, it's like this pattern, especially at high moments, it's probably not just random. There's probably some sort of energetic, subconscious thing at play there. The point is that this subconscious temperature setting, if we don't become conscious and aware of it, will rule our life. And most of us don't even realize that we have these limits. There's this man, his name is Gay Hendricks, and he actually studied this psychological concept in depth, and he actually wrote a book about it called The Big Leap. I highly recommend it. If you want to learn more about this concept, he's your man, I'll link it down below, but he calls this problem the upper limit problem. And he talks about how it's influenced by our upbringing, our beliefs, our fears, and our past experiences. And he has this story in the beginning of the book, and it made me laugh. He talks about how in the early days of the steam-powered train, scientists said that they needed to cap the speed of the train to 30 miles per hour because if it went faster than 30 miles per hour, they thought that humans would explode. Eventually, they realized that that was not the case, but this is an example of an irrelevant upper limit from some false belief that was stopping them from being better. And think about this, for so long, nobody could run a mile in under 4 minutes. For so long that they thought that this was humanly impossible until one day, one guy did it. And then, you know what happened after that? All of a sudden, a bunch of people started running a mile under 4 minutes because that upper limit, that barrier, that internal temperature setting of what was possible was broken. It shifted. These energetic ranges or energetic temperature settings of our life need to be challenged and forced to move, or else we will stay exactly the same. We will always find ourselves coming back to where we were before. Brianna Weiss, one of my favorite authors, actually talks about this as well in her book, The Mountain Is You. I highly recommend this book. I'll link it down below as well. Chef's Kiss, one of my favorites. So self-sabotage often disguises itself as those upper limiting behaviors, not letting you go past that internal temperature setting. But once you become aware of it, you can start to conquer and move past that. It's the first step. So according to Gay Hendricks, the man who studied this, he said that there were some big signs that show that you were at your upper limit and becoming uncomfortable with that. One is if you are starting to worry constantly about things beyond your control, very common. 2, if you start blaming or criticizing other people all of a sudden. 3, if you start deflecting, like turning away from compliments, success, and achievements, like downplaying them. 4, having arguments, like especially unexpected arguments. Number 5, health setbacks. This could be our mind's way of forcing us to stay stuck in that old temperature zone. Of course, health issues can be caused by other things as well. It's not just self-sabotage, but it is possible, and it did happen to me. And number 6, maybe you start to compromise your integrity a little bit in little ways, like through deception or withholding the truth. There was a time in my life in my early to mid 20s where every single time I was about to go on vacation, I would get sick, like without fail. And at first I was like, wow, what a crappy coincidence. And then once it started happening over and over again, and it was like a pattern, I started to be like, okay, wait, what is going on here? And I realized that it was a self-sabotaging behavior keeping me at a lower, suckier temperature setting. Because when things finally started to get good and I was about to go on this super fun, awesome vacation, my subconscious mind couldn't handle that amount of good. It was past its limit. It would bring me back down. It wasn't something that I was actively doing. It was something that just happened because my body energetically attracted that experience in. Because I became so familiar with the feeling of discomfort that when things became comfortable, I couldn't handle it. But things have luckily shifted a lot since then, and I am consciously trying to push that temperature setting up and up so that things can be better and better. I'm always trying to change what's normal in my life so that I can experience more good. And so now let's talk about it. How to start shifting the thermostat on your life so that you can start truly leveling up your life and not just experiencing joy and abundance for an hour, but to the point where that becomes your new norm. That becomes what you are comfortable and familiar with, because that's just how you live your life. That's what your thermostat setting is set to. So first, you need to start bringing conscious awareness to these upper limit moments. You will not be able to increase the temperature of your life until you become very conscious and very aware of what's going on. Notice the moments in your life where things are feeling good, where you're at that high moment, right? And then notice when things start to shift. What happens? Be an observer. Is it an internal thing? Like you start to worry a lot, or you start to feel really guilty about something and it ruins your mood? Do you get sassy with your partner and start a fight? Like, just notice what happens that brings you back down. And even notice the things that appear to be outside of your control. Maybe it is a coincidence, or maybe you do play a part. If you notice something becoming a pattern over and over again, then it's likely that you are at least a part of the equation. Notice these moments, and they will happen over and over again, and they might just be little waves or bigger ones, but just think about how you feel when something good happens. Like, how good does that feel? And then think about what happens that takes you out of that. Why does that good feeling go away? And notice your limiting beliefs. Notice where you are not comfortable in your life with things being good. Notice where you keep hitting walls. And this requires honesty. For example, every time I was about to go on vacation, I'd get sick. That was something I noticed. I also noticed that when things tended to get easier in my life for some reason, I would somehow try to make it harder. Easy felt uncomfortable to me. The several years prior to that felt so hard that once things became easier, it became uncomfortable to me. When my relationship was fine and dandy, sometimes I would pick a random fight with my husband just because I think I liked a little bit of that tension. Once I became the observer of my world, I started to notice these things. You can't shift what you aren't aware of. And back to this book, Gay Hendricks also talks about how there are 4 really big common limiting beliefs or barriers that stop us from increasing the temperature on our life. So number 1 is feeling fundamentally flawed. This is a really big one, really common one. Number 2 is disloyalty and abandonment, meaning that if you were to expand to your highest self, you feel like you would be abandoned, end up alone, or have to leave people from your past. Number 3, believing that more success brings more burdens in your life. I have experienced this one. And number 4, the crime of outshining, aka if you are outshining people or outshining someone, that makes you feel bad or guilty. So it's not just important to notice your behaviors, but also the beliefs behind those behaviors. Be the observer of your world. Be the observer of your mind. Now, next you need to slowly and gently start pushing those limits. So here's what I mean. For example, when you are feeling good, when things are going good in whatever way, it is your job to try to hold on to that feeling as long as you can. Whenever you feel like you are at that upper limit or you are crossing that temperature setting that you've always been at, it is your job to become conscious of that, become aware of that, and hold it there. You keep it there, maybe for just another 5 minutes, but eventually that 5 minutes will turn into an hour, a day, a week, so on, so on. And by you bringing awareness to holding it there, you will naturally avoid those self-sabotaging behaviors. And so basically, for any and all good things you experience, it is your job to milk everything out of it. All the joy, all the goodness, all the love, all the success, all the abundance, whatever. Try to lean into it more. Consciously lean into it more and expand that feeling of goodness. And it's not going to go from here to here, but it might go from here to here. Allow yourself to experience more. When you're at a high point, you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden something comes that brings you back down. Notice that. Maybe it's you worrying all of a sudden about your cat, or you worrying that your boss hates you. That right there is taking you out of that feeling. That is an example. Notice that resistance so you can move past it and stay in that good feeling zone. Or you hit an achievement, milk it. Own it. If someone congratulates you, don't say, oh no, it's not that big of a deal. Say, thank you so much. I am so excited. Basically, you are training your body, your mind, your subconscious mind to expand your capacity for goodness. You won't go from 0 to 100 overnight. That's just not how it works. But you will go from 5 to 10 to 12 to 20 and so on, slowly increasing that temperature. Because here's the trick. You need to learn how to gently expand your comfort zone. And if you're stuck at a lower temperature all the time, it's because that is your current comfort zone. That's what your nervous system is used to. Imagine your nervous system as the control panel of your internal thermostat. It's responsible for determining how much heat or joy you can stand before unconsciously self-sabotaging to bring you back down. To increase the temperature, we have to start training our nervous system to slowly start becoming comfortable and familiar with that next level. Whatever that is, we have to crank the dial on our comfort zone. And so when you are in those next level moments and you feel your nervous system starting to react, starting to resist, you have to learn how to calm it. So you can do this with things just like body awareness, breath work, mindfulness. But honestly, one of the most helpful things for me has just been self-compassion and self-understanding, and understanding that new experiences, even if they are good, will feel a little bit uncomfortable, and that's normal. And so the main questions are, 1, how can you hold on to those good feelings as long as you can? And 2, how can you slowly start to increase your capacity for experiencing the good, for experiencing that next level? The hard part is that this is gonna look different for everyone. And I've wanted to do this video for so long, but I haven't because it's so hard to explain. Like, it's a very easy concept, but it's also a very difficult concept at the same time. For me, I had to convince myself that I was actually deserving of a life at that higher temperature setting, that I was deserving of comfort and ease. I had a huge limiting belief there that was holding me back. When things started to become easy or easier, I had to work on holding that and leaning into it instead of resisting it and trying to make life harder for myself. And that's why I got sick before my vacations, because I didn't feel good with it. I didn't feel deserving of it. It was too nice and calm and easy for a week, as silly and stupid as that sounds. Because for me, for several years prior, my life was just kind of chaotic and there were a lot of challenges. That was a hard time in my life. And so that just kind of became the norm. That became my new temperature setting. But once I started leaning into more ease, more comfort, more good in my day-to-day life in small ways, my capacity for goodness started to expand. My comfort zone started to shift. I'm gonna recommend another book for you guys. I have a lot of book recs today apparently, but this is another great book called The Comfort Zone by Kristen Butler. And one of you guys actually recommended this book to me, so thank you if that was you. And it's all about learning how to easily, gently, lovingly expand your comfort zone, and how living your life in the comfort zone is actually a wonderful thing. Highly recommend. I'll link it down below. When you're on the verge of stepping into something greater than your current comfort zone, whether it's something really small or much bigger, like a really big promotion at work, an amazing, fulfilling relationship, or any scenario that promises newfound joy, recognize it as an opportunity to build capacity within your nervous system. Instead of immediately succumbing to resistance, make an intentional effort, a conscious effort to regulate your nervous system in that scenario and lean into it. This is how you train yourself to keep leveling up and increasing the temperature of your life. The next step in the process, after you start to become an observer of your life, become consciously aware of what's going on, and start working on pushing those limits, expanding your capacity, you also need to decide who that next level version of you is, like that higher temperature setting, that 2.0 version, and shift your self-concept to meet that. The way that you view yourself has to change. If you always see yourself the same, then life will always be the same. That 2.0 version of you is the version that operates easily and effortlessly at that new temperature setting. So what does she look like? How does she show up? What are her habits? What are her beliefs? What does she think about? How does she spend her time? And once you have that image of her, act like her. Be delusional and stay delusional. Shifting your self-concept is a lot easier to do when you do it from a fun and playful place. And remember, it's only delusional until it becomes reality. And then, so when you feel like you're finally turning up the thermostat, things are going good, there will be a moment where it will at least feel like the universe is trying to test you. And this is when you have to double down. Again, like I said earlier, you have to hold on to that next higher limit as long as you can, long enough so that you can start to get comfortable there. This has to be an active, conscious process, or else it won't happen, or else you will fall back down to that lower temperature setting. So now remember how I shared that story about the 4-minute mile, how once one person did it, a bunch of other people started running a mile in less than 4 minutes. This is very important. Who you are around and who you are exposed to can either push your temperature limits up or push them down. When runners saw that this man broke the seemingly impossible under 4-minute mile, that pushed every other runner's upper limit up. What was once seemingly impossible now became a potential possibility. Your life is like this. The circle of people around you helps to determine your upper limits and where your internal thermostat sits. So if you are constantly surrounded by people who are always unhappy or always struggling or have terrible love lives or are always broke or whatever, etc., then that's going to become the norm for you. That's more likely to become your internal temperature setting. If you're constantly surrounded by people who are sitting at 30 degrees and you want to be at 100, then that's not going to work. And I'm not saying that you need to just cut all these people out of your life. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you don't want to do that. But it's just about being really intentional with your time and energy and who you give that to, who you give access to yourself. Everyone also needs expanders. So expanders is a term coined by Lacey Phillips from To Be Magnetic. And basically an expander is a person who has achieved or become who you want to become. They are meant to expand your reality. If it's possible for them, it's possible for you. Just like the under 4-minute mile, once one person did it, it became easier for everyone else. Once you see that something is possible, once your brain figures out that it is actually a potential possibility, a potential reality for you, that's when your upper limit goes up. So find people either in real life or online who have done what you want to do. Let them expand what you think is possible. Let them raise your internal temperature set point. I always have expanders in my life. They are so necessary for breaking those internal limits that we set for ourselves. Keep in mind that this upper limit problem is not something that you can ever permanently fix, because there are always new glass ceilings to shatter. There are always new higher limits. Like what Katie said in Mean Girls, the limit does not exist. You can always keep raising the temperature, even if you're a freaking billionaire. This isn't to say that you always have to be better and better and always pushing for more. Your life is not meant to be a constant self-improvement project. But it is helpful to know that when you reach these new limits and these new walls, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It actually means that you're doing something right. See the celebration and progress in that. So the question is, how good are you willing to let it get? And the key word here is willing, because this is a choice. It's all about your willingness to make the change, step into the uncomfortable, and expand your comfort zone. You have the power to redefine what's possible for yourself, and it all begins with your willingness to put in the effort and have that conscious awareness so you can start increasing the thermostat of your life. All right, that was a long video. I hope you guys got value from this video. If you did, please give it a like, comment down below. Comment where you have experienced an upper limit problem in your life, like where you keep hitting that limit, where you can't go past that higher temperature setting, because I feel like being able to share these experiences in the comments can actually really help each other out. Now, if you love this video, I also encourage you to go watch this video, Stop Making Life Harder for Yourself. It's very related to what we've been talking about today and might help you to break past those upper limits. So I will see you over there, or I will just see you next time in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.